Okay, last week we spoke about the concept of dveikut, the idea of clinging to God, the idea of meditation, the idea of living with God. This week I said we were going to discuss Lag BaOmer a little bit, and then we'll jump right back into our text. So Lag BaOmer is going to happen this Thursday night. It's the 33rd day of the Omer. What do we know about Lag BaOmer? Word association. What do we think of when we hear Lag BaOmer?
A fire?
A fire. Good. Midurot. Midurot. Yeah.
Yeah. The death
Okay, death of?
the Hasidim. It was the end of it.
Okay, you're saying two different things,
Right,
but they're
right.
both correct. It was the end of the death of Rabbi Akiva's students, and it was the death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
Yeah.
Right? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So there's two different things that happened. So I want to just discuss a little bit about Lag BaOmer, not the whole class, but just a little bit, just some practical takeaways as we're building up towards this day. It's an interesting thing because in Judaism, we know that the baseline of joy is always supposed to be joy, meaning our emotional baseline is always supposed to be joy. We're told sometimes we increase joy, sometimes we decrease joy, but we are actually told that on the day of Lag BaOmer, we should have a little bit of joy, increase the joy a little bit. And we also know that the whole time period of Sfirat HaOmer, it's toned down a little bit. There's a little bit of a tone down. Like I mentioned, not listening to music, for sure not live music. There's no weddings during this time. There's no haircuts. There's like a few different things that we just do just to like tone it down. In my house particularly, the music it's excruciating. It's so hard because my kids are so musical and there really is, I mean, my husband said that if they're practicing just so that they don't forget how to then they're allowed to. Shira just started violin lessons this week. And
Wow.
I don't know if we can consider it music yet. So it was fine. I said, this is just great. This is perfect for Sfirat HaOmer. Keep busy with the violin. But you could really feel a difference. Like even they have such beautiful now, so many acapellas, which acapella we listen to, it's not the same level of joy. It feels different. So, but what changes on Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of the Omer, that there's a shift? So there's two main things that I want to explain to you. Number one is that we said that the coinciding with the whole counting of the Omer up to the 49th day of the giving of the Torah, there was also this terrible pandemic that happened to the students of Rabbi Akiva. It's not clear whether it's 24,000 people or 24,000 pairs. So it's, that's a pretty big discrepancy, but whatever it is, it was a lot of people that this pandemic wiped out. And on Lag BaOmer, the pandemic stopped. Now, unfortunately, there was not really any more students to wipe out. It's like they were all dead, which is why the pandemic pretty much stopped. But inevitably, it was the day where the line was kind of drawn. It was like it was, and now moving forward, what will be. Okay? And remember, because this is going to be part of the theme of Lag BaOmer, remember that the reason that this whole pandemic happened, did I tell you? What was the reason they were killed?
Because they weren't respecting each other.
Right.
Exactly. Shalom nahagu kavod zeh bazeh. They were not treating one another with the proper respect. Now, these were very holy students. So the level, they were judged very, very stringently. So we can only imagine what that looked like on their level to not treat each other with respect. But for their level, it was considered not respect. Okay. The other tremendous thing that happened was that it is the Hilula, which is an Aramaic word for the yahrzeit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is the father of the Zohar, the father of all Kabbalistic teaching in this world. He understood a tremendous depth of Torah, one that most people today cannot understand. And it was all written down and brought to the world, but different than a lot of great people where we kind of commemorate their yahrzeit as like we think of it as it's like a yahrzeit. It's not necessarily celebrated. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, it's a day of celebration. It's a real day of celebration, and it has become something so powerful because Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is buried in the city of Meron, and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people go to his graveside, and they don't cry and they don't just pray. You have never, if you thought my challah bake was a nice mix of women, just imagine what Meron looked like. You have never seen a more colorful group of Jews from all backgrounds swaying together, dancing together, all throughout the night till wee hours of the morning. Unfortunately, if you remember a few years ago, there was a terrible, terrible, terrible tragedy in Meron. And so now it's almost like historically, Meron has become like now, Lag BaOmer has become yet another day of just understanding tragedy within. But that's a set aside. Let me just address for a second the concept of the fact that the students stopped dying and they were killed, the pandemic happened because they didn't treat each other with respect, and the fact that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and the Torah that he brought to this world was something that he pulled in all Jews, bringing everybody together, uniting everybody. Even Kabbalah, bless you, even Kabbalah, if you think about it, there's something there that if you look at the spectrum of Jews who are trying to like tap into Kabbalah, and really what we have nowadays, I feel like it's Kabbalah light. We don't really understand even the depths of this. The Zohar is like extremely like beyond. But you see that it's all different types of Jews that are very drawn towards Kabbalah. So Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai really reminds non-Jews, exactly. There you go, exactly. So it really does. It has something about the power of unity, which totally makes sense as we're leaning in, climbing each rung on the ladder towards being able to receive the Torah as united Jews. So that's why there is such a focus on unity during this time, and Lag BaOmer really reminds us of that, okay? Now let's discuss the bonfire for a second, okay? So takeaway number one, reminder about the concept of unity and the power of unity. Bonfire, okay? What does Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai have to do with a bonfire? And what is fire?
Energy.
Okay, true.
It can give you light and sometimes it can burn you.
Okay, very good. So we're actually going to take that analogy and I'm going to tell you exactly what happens to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. But it's very, very powerful to understand that the message that he actually wanted to be spread to the world is, on the day that I died, I want you to celebrate the light, the physical light of the Torah that I brought into this world. And that is done through the physical form of a bonfire. Now, fire, exactly like Sarah just said so beautifully, fire can either be incredibly powerful, an incredible powerful force. It can cook, it can create warmth, it can create beauty, and it can also be a major, major form of destruction. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son were actually living during this time when we were being persecuted, surprise, by the Romans, okay? Throughout history, always. But we were being persecuted by the Romans at the time, and they had to go into hiding because they literally would have been killed. And so the story is told that what we understand from what happened is that he went into a cave for about 12 years. And he sat in the cave, and what he did was he learned and he learned and he learned. And during that time, he was able to access some of the deepest, darkest, and just the deepest secrets of the Torah. And we're told, how did he live? What did he eat? What did he drink? So you want to say what we understand? Yeah, what? What happened? How did he access it? What is charuvim? Carob tree. A carob tree. So miraculously, outside of this this cave that he was in, there was a little stream of water which he was able to drink from, and a carob tree, a buxar carob tree that grew. And this is what he lived on for all of that time. He was able to eat, and he remained in hiding while they were trying to kill him. He was able to survive. But such an interesting thing happened when he came out of the tree, out of the cave. He saw people, and we are told that he was so strong, and what his knowledge of Torah understood was so great. but he looked at people almost in a little bit of a judgy way, if you will. He looked at people and thought, like, what are you just doing living in this world like this? You know what happened? It says that he burns them up. Just looking at them, he used this strength, this light of Torah, and people, he was burning up people for whatever that means. I don't know. I wasn't there, but that's what we're told, that it was causing a fire, it was burning up people. You know what? A bas kol came down. The Almighty's voice came down, and it said to him, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, return to your cave. You are not ready to exit into this world. You are burning up people. That is not why I created this Torah. That is not why I created you to be able to learn the Torah. Something is wrong. You go back into the cave and you figure it out again. And this time, he went back in for another, I believe, another 12 years. And this time he learned how to integrate the Torah into life. This analogy, there is so much to say on this whole story, but when he exited the cave, the following story is told about him. Beforehand, he would see people walking around carrying, food, flowers, whatever it is, and he would burn them up, thinking like, what are you doing? Like living in this worldly world. Like you have so much more purpose. But then he walks out of the cave and he sees a man who is carrying flowers. And the old self would have said, what are you doing carrying flowers? That feels so vain, like whatever his narrative would have been, burn up. This time he looks at the man and he says, what are you doing? What are you carrying? And he says, well, I'm carrying flowers. L'chvod Shabbat. I'm carrying flowers to put into my home to glorify the Sabbath. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says, you see how unbelievable the Jewish people are? He takes flowers and he beautifies his home for Shabbat. And suddenly he didn't burn up because he was able to see the beauty in someone who wasn't exactly like him. And he was able to take the Torah and understand how to integrate it into a way to properly live in this world. This is like one little Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai story. There are so many stories. Specifically, the message that I wanted to relay over here is the following. Number one, what does this say about comparison? What message does this give us about what Judaism teaches about comparison?
Like not to do it, right?
Okay.
We don't know what other people's missions are.
Okay, good.
There's both sides of the coin and the opportunity, and you take what you see and figure out what's the reality of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like you don't know, you're not walking in their shoes. So you don't know their experience.
Correct.
So you only know your own experience.
Correct. Which I think this whole story, to me, kind of brings together that whole idea of unity. Tonight I'm giving a panel on comparison to teenage girls, and it's not this message, but I'm thinking about it almost like I'm flipping it. We spend so much of our lives busy comparing. Now, comparison sometimes could be very helpful. You see something, but there's a difference between aspiring towards something and comparing towards something. They're not the same, You can aspire towards something and want and I see that's what I'm kind of going to. Versus comparing, okay? Aspiring is looking forward. Comparing is looking sideways, okay? So aspiring is great. Yeah, go ahead.
There's also, with comparison, there was also a lot of judgment.
Correct.
Right.
So
Correct.
comparing and judging how they are without actually knowing.
Right.
what's behind it.
Exactly. Comparison and judgment go very, very hand in hand. So tonight I'm really focusing on not living in your lane and having your stuff and not living your whole life by just which the world, every single part of the world tries to throw on us. Every billboard, every ad, every social media, every part of this universe is all about comparison, right? They're just trying to make you feel inadequate by comparing you to something or someone else, okay? But that as a separate category. Over here, what I think is important is different. It's a different part of comparison, is that he came out of the cave so knowledgeable. It wasn't about I wish I was like that, but it was the judgment piece. It was the piece of understanding that this is my lane, this is my Torah that I just understood. not necessarily the same Torah that's going to apply to him or 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 to her, to her, to her. And I need to learn how to infuse all of my life with this Torah and literally like a diffuser, see how my own knowledge, my own life, it will diffuse and leave its little scent. Not by trying to change, not by trying to burn up, by filling up and diffusing. And I think that that message is such a powerful message before Shavuos, specifically in the merit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who learned the hard way. Like he really had to learn through his experience to understand that in order to achieve real unity, it's the power of being a diffuser. It's not the power of trying to walk around and spray everybody with the perfume, but it's a power of just you do you and you let your thing rub off and let everybody else's scents and all their essences kind of be themselves. And together it'll make a beautiful, beautiful perfume together. They'll all blend together beautifully. But otherwise, that's not unity. Okay, I just saw a couple hands. Yeah.
Oh, it just reminds me of something I was reading in Torah Treasury. I don't remember which rabbi, but it was
Yeah.
a rabbi who had wanted to like change the world and then change the town.
Oh, Rabbi. Well, it's said about a few different people. My husband quotes it in his book also.
And then
Yes.
and
Rabbi
he said
Strauss
that he
Salanter.
realized
Yes,
he
yes.
couldn't do any of that. That
Yes.
he had to change
Correct.
himself.
Correct.
What's the name of the rabbi?
That's kind of.
It said it. I've heard it in the name of a lot of people, including some non-Jews, but I've heard it mostly in the name of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, who's the father of the
Maybe,
Yetzer movement. Yeah.
that's it,
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
That my husband starts his book off with that quote. That was it. And I think he even talks about whatever. Anyways, we don't have to go into that. So that, okay, yeah, you also had a comment.
So I feel like that is something that we need to say as Jews.
For sure,
Because we're
1,000%.
not diffused, we're not, we're
Completely not.
even with what happened, we're still like, you see it on social media,
Yeah,
different camps.
yeah, yeah. It's not,
And there's
it's
so much
overwhelming.
judging.
Yeah.
Like, so much judging.
Yeah, it's very, very, very overwhelming. Sometimes, especially when it's so blatant in your face, like it feels like, why does this feel so divided? But this is the Harban, this is the destruction that we're living. This is it. And the truth is that the unity piece is critical. It's absolutely critical. So it's very hard to think of changing the masses. Like there's really nothing that can do, especially you think about what shook. October 7th happened. They said there was unity. Like the day before, it was hating in the streets, and then October 7th happened, and suddenly you have so much more unity. So we have these like wake up calls, and then like slowly everybody gets back into their own lane. So this is just a very important wake up call and a reminder just for ourselves, just for ourselves. Like this is so critical. So that is why Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's yard site, if you look in Israel, there's bonfires everywhere. The little boys are collecting for already weeks. They're collecting all of the wood and they're just building their midurot, all their bonfires. And you just see fires. You see in hilltops, the whole Israel smells like fire. And you just see fires. And it is such an amazing thing when you think about the power of fire. And we said it last week also. We said it again with that fire represents that either it's the ego that's so big that there's no room for anything else, and that's the form of destruction, or it's that I can burn myself down. I can become so melted and so burnt down that I can make room for everything else. And that's really what fire represents. So on the day that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai passed away, and we bring in his Torah, some people learn some of his Torah, some people just like to try to do something with a little bit more unity, some people like to light a yahrzeit candle, some people like anything that you could do for, certainly there's a lot of music and dancing, but just to think about what that means and what is my light of Torah? What is my light of Torah that I can bring uniquely to this world, that I can become a diffuser, that I can try just to like understand my role in my lane and just be me, my fire, my brightness, shining and just sprinkling everywhere else.
But unfortunately, this year, because half of the country was underburned,
Yes,
Those
literally.
this time they asked, please.
Be careful with the bonfires.
Don't light any.
Yeah, sure.
of it on.
Oh, gosh.
So Meron is not having?
No, they're all gonna have.
Oh.
but Not the like you said.
as many as
Country,
usual.
Right, 'cause it's so dry.
This time they asked people because everything's so dry.
Because of the
Yes.
fires.
Yes.
Oh, that's
So we
terrible.
run the country already.
Yes,
It was like, well, no.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
truly. Oh my
This is a
gosh.
fascinating lesson, Lag BaOmer. I feel like it's like underrated as far.
Oh, so that's what I wanted to say. It is way underrated because nobody said field day, picnics, or barbecues. But in America, that's what Lag BaOmer is. It becomes field day in school, and it becomes a barbecue or like music, and
Yeah.
it's way underrated. You should know that when we lived in Israel, so my husband had like a few like things, and I will say I was the very good wife. And like despite being 9 months pregnant or crazy things, like I would let him do his few things because I knew that like we were there just for a few years, so like might as well. So Lag BaOmer was one of them, and he would be gone like the full time, to be able to go to Meron and to be able to just get up there on a bus. You can't move. It's like insane. But he describes that the wholeness of Am Yisrael that you feel. We're talking about tens of thousands of people. You don't even see people. You just see like, if you look at the videos, it just looks like blobs, just like swaying like ants,
Wow.
But when you're just standing there and you could think about who is the one that's bringing them all together, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, by the cover of Meron, it's like totally mind-boggling. It's so powerful. And to think of the depth of the Torah that he brought to this world and that we're all there to celebrate it, it's unbelievable. So I'm touching just a teeny smidgen. But yes, Lag BaOmer has a tremendous amount of depth and a tremendous amount of meaning. And it's a holy day. It's considered a very holy day. And in the schos of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in the merit of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, we pray that in the merit of this man's yahrzeit, his hilula, we really don't call any, like, it's not such a word that we
You
use.
should come to our synagogue on Thursday night. We have a little Ilula.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So very nice. Which synagogue?
Again,
Very nice.
It's
It's very nice.
What is, sorry,
What is your daughter?
They do bonfires.
oh,
She's gonna still be in Israel. I was actually very discouraging of her to go to Meron, but she will live her life. So I will see what she decides. It's just like she's in the mid. Did I tell you she's in the middle of this 40-day? No, I didn't tell you. She could on the second day of Pesach, she started going to the kotel every day for 40 days. And she said that if she goes to Meron, she's gonna miss it's a full day.
Oh.
So she doesn't want to miss her kotel.
Uh-huh.
So I have a feeling she's not gonna go, which
Is
I'm
it like a nishmat type thing? Nishmat?
it's a specifically an idea to go to the hotel for 40 days. 40 has a very strong
Yes.
power.
At any point in time?
Yeah, 40 consecutive
So
days.
it's not necessarily to do with the Omer.
No, but actually
Interesting.
she started going on the same day as
Yeah.
the Omer, so it's counting exactly as the
Yeah.
Omer. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And
Anyways.
I grew up in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
And I remember the big flame, and we used to make dolls. Either was Hitler or.
Oh, my.
Yeah,
And burn them?
And burn them.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
That is.
Yeah, and yeah, and
That's so
Nasser back then was the president of Egypt.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So it was a big doll we used to, I mean,
Oh,
not
my goodness.
how.
What does that mean? Like you would paint a
Like-
picture or?
a doll, like a,
doll,
like
like
a bit of a flag and
Oh, I was
everything.
imagining a door. Okay, I didn't hear what you said.
A doll.
A doll.
Goodness.
That's intense.
Especially.
But it's not working, he's
Oh, yeah.
coming around.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Somebody pointed out.
That's like-
Ay, ay.
It just seems a little.
Okay. There's a lot of Torah that you could learn if you want to learn any piece of Kabbalah on that day. That is a beautiful thing to do for Lag BaOmer. Okay, so much more to be said. I want to continue on the topic that we were talking about, moving on from Dveikut into a very interesting topic again, as we are climbing this mountain to be recipients of the Torah. The next topic that he's going to bring up has to do with the idea of the Yetzer Hara. The idea of the evil inclination specifically within the framework of Torah and good deeds, Torah and mitzvot. So here's how he introduces the concept. He says, happy, ashrei, Yisrael. Happy are the people of Yisrael. When they engage in Torah and deeds of kindness, their Yetzer Hara is delivered into their power, and they are not delivered into the power of their Yetzer Hara. What does this mean? What does this mean to you?
Can you repeat that?
Happy are the people, we're so lucky to be Israel. When they engage in Torah and good deeds and kindness, okay, those three things, then their Yetzer Hara, their evil inclination, is delivered into their power. And it's not the opposite. They are not delivered into the power of the Yetzer Hara. What does that mean to you?
Oh, that all, you're devoting yourself to Torah and learning.
Okay.
I don't know if you should use the word control,
Okay.
but you have control over the evil inclination versus the evil inclination having control over you.
Exactly. So what does that mean?
The choice.
So what does that mean?
It's been good, that's it.
Well, yes, if
Connect to the
it's so
good
simple.
Connect to the
It's not telling you what to do. It's telling you something about the essence of what's happening. There's something inside of you that's transpiring.
Yetzer Tov, you're activating your good inclination, you're
Yeah.
leaning into that. You're
Okay, he doesn't
But
say
all
that
of those
word.
things working together make you clarity and knowing,
purpose.
yeah, purpose, but also like recognizing
Mm.
that's the evil inclination and not partaking. I don't.
Okay, good. So let me read to you the first little bit over here, and let's really understand, and let's also just be real with ourselves what this means, the evil inclination. What is that evil inclination? To be delivered into the hands of one's Yetzer. By the way, Yetzer really is translated as form, creation, right? It's the word that we use in when we say Asher Yatzar, that he created. So there's either the creation of Yetzer, the creation of Hatov, the good, or Yetzer, the creation of the bad. And they are equal forces, okay? It is not like it's not like one is like this big percentage and then this one is like a smaller percentage. You're talking about like equal forces, okay? And they live inside of us, okay? And he says they are not to be taken as a light matter. And he didn't say the Yetzer Hara, all he said is the Yetzer, okay? The creation of this thing. One is seized by the Yetzer like a dwarf in the hands of a giant. And he has to carry on his struggle against the Yetzer in that terrifying position. Do you like that analogy? Like a small person in the hands of a giant. That is the way that we as humanity, we as humans, the way Hashem created us, we are being carried. It's like our Yetzer is being carried in the hands of this giant, okay? But one whose Yetzer is delivered into his own power, then the Yetzer is like a fly that becomes caught in his hand. Which one feels more powerful, like a dwarf in the hands of a giant, or a fly that's caught in the hand? Wait a second. What a happy position that it is for that person. Caught the fly. Let the Yetzer put forth all of its strength, it cannot prevail. One has only to close his hand tight, and the Yetzer is no more. How can one reach that happy position? So this is what he's answering, and this is why it comes into specifically these chapters. By engaging with deeds, by learning Torah and deeds of loving kindness. Then one is attached, then one is attached to Torah in one's mind, through the study of Torah, and in one's heart and emotions through good deeds to others. As the Maharal explains, such attachment is absolute without any impediment whatsoever. Okay, so before I continue on, I just want to describe to you what's happening over here, okay? Anytime that you start to feel, and I think, I don't know, if you're in touch with your feelings and your emotions, you'll notice that it's creeping in a lot. But anytime that you're starting to feel that this Yetzer is coming and it's not the good Yetzer, what his antidote is bring him into a place where there's either going to be Torah, or you're going to have the ability to perform a mitzvah, or you're going to have the ability to perform an act of chesed. Okay? What happens when you involve yourself in something good, like those three things, in spiritual goodness? What essentially happens to the Yetzer?
shrink.
It shrinks, okay? So the reason that I love that analogy of like, like you're able to just like catch the fly is because the Gemara actually talks about the Yetzer Hara as a pesky fly. You know how like a fly, when it's like you think you like swatted it away, and then suddenly you hear like this zuzzing in your ear, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's back. So that's really what the Yetzer Hara is. You can shush it away. You can go like this, but it's only a matter of usually milliseconds till the fly is just right back in your ear. Okay. So what he's saying over here is that if you can do the action of immersing yourself into the goodness, then you are actually trapping the fly into your hand, and you have full control over what happens to this fly. Okay? So let's give an example. Okay? I always like to bring the example of Lashon Hara. Okay? You're just about to engage. You feel like you have to say very juicy gossip. You feel like, or you're listening to very juicy gossip, okay? And you're struggling, removing yourself from the conversation, or you're struggling to shush the other people up. Because do you remember that we learned that the person who listens to the gossip is just as, if not more, responsible for saying the gossip than as if they started it themselves. So what would be a practical life example of how this tact of immersing yourself into the study of Torah or doing good or performing a mitzvah would be able to help you? I mean, you're like in the act. What's supposed to happen?
Say words of kindness.
Okay. What does that look like?
Like redirect the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that look like?
Instead of talking about that person in a judgy way, maybe speak of whatever you're talking in a more favorable, or I don't know, trying to understand and not, just not judge.
Okay, good.
But I don't know how, it's hard, right?
Okay, so this specific example that I'm giving is excruciatingly hard, especially if you're engaging with somebody else, right?
I just walked into a room and two people were talking, and it was my kitchen while I was trying to get dinner ready, and they were deeply involved. I did not know what to do.
Mm-hmm. You were part of the
I
conversation?
was not part of the conversation.
Oh, so that's much easier. When you're not part of the conversation and you're just overhearing it, it's much easier for you to choose what to do.
It was not if they're in
Well-
the kitchen and I gotta.
You could ask them to help you get ready for dinner.
First of all, you can pop in no, but she's not part of the conversation.
Well,
It's much easier, especially if it's not, if it's some people that you feel like, when they're toddlers, and you can be like, oh, hi guys, can we redirect our conversation? But like if they're adults and you're not like getting them to redirect, but you can pop in AirPods. You can do something else. You can go over and open up Tehillim and say a chapter of Psalms. That's a much easier answer than if you're in it. So that one is a little easier. But let's go back to this conversation that you're a part of it. So Lauren's example, I just want to play this out for you, and this is a very hard example, and then we're gonna break it down into a few more. Lauren's example.
I think if I could say something for a minute, may I?
Oh, it's Debbie. Yeah, hi.
Hi, no, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just you have to remove yourself, but you have to be aware not to remove yourself in a way that looks judgmental to the people speaking, because then you look like you're putting them down. So it is tricky, but I think pretending you have a phone call or something like that and stepping away is
Okay.
maybe
When
a way to do it, because if you stop the conversation or change the conversation in this group, you're embarrassing the person a little that started it.
Okay.
So you have to be
Okay.
careful. That's all
It's a
I'm
very
saying.
good point. It's a very good point. Yeah.
I don't know what you're seeking.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
answer, but I will tell you that, I have a friend who I know is a very good person, and I know she has a good heart, and I think for whatever reason, she's drawn to gossiping. And it's like, it
We all
doesn't
are.
serve her, but not she,
Uh-huh.
but it's like, and I will, she knows that it's not that I don't engage. But sometimes what I will do is say that I'm trying to find compassion for that person. And I can't, I only imagine let's just say I have a neighbor that she's like, I just despise that neighbor. And I was like, there must be something going on with her. I try to find compassion for what she's going through. And then that like softens the situation.
Okay, beautiful. And I think that's what Lauren was saying.
Yeah.
And I think that in this situation, when you're talking about, I mean, you're not whipping out a Torah book, you're not going to start learning Torah. You could start to think something in your head, just like try to think positive Torah thoughts. You're not going to start like performing a mitzvah right there. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, that's going to look a little strange. Yeah, exactly. So, exactly. So, but over here you have the opportunity. Exactly. The Torah tells us that we have the mitzvah to judge favorably. It's literally a mitzvah to be able to judge favorably. So to be able to do that mitzvah, and it's one thing to think it, and that's, by the way, a start. Even if they're talking it and you're in your mind trying to go, okay, I'm trying. You're already starting to pull back the Yetzer Hara where you're grabbing that fly and putting it into your hand. Okay?
Sure.
Whereas, yes.
What about people that don't know about that, right? That don't know that it's not a good thing.
Exactly. I was talking to someone and they're like, I'm not gossiping. And I said,
I'm just
already
stating
know-
facts.
Exactly. And I'm
Not
like,
gossip. This is
I already
just
know all
facts.
these facts about someone I don't even know. And she's exactly right. They don't even know. They don't even think that it's gossip, but it is. So yeah.
Or
What do
that
you do?
gossip's a bad thing.
Yeah. Right.
It's interesting to me. I guess maybe this is where I need to be a little bit more broad in my mind, but it's interesting to me that people don't think that gossip is a bad thing. Like if you're speaking badly about something, someone, how could that not be a bad thing?
Their defense would be it's true.
Or that they're venting. Like I think when women get together and something bothered you or you heard
Oh.
this, it's like, there's
Yeah.
can be that kind of.
Okay.
Devorah.
Yeah. This is. I probably picked like the worst example because it's so intense. Yeah.
I'm gonna be vulnerable here
Yes,
because
Lauren's
I
being
am
vulnerable.
victim. I've done.
So have
someone that
all of us.
Okay,
Yes,
so there's this person, actually a relative, who applied for a job in a foreign country, and she has a child that's very like in trouble, right? And so I was talking to my friend Dorothy, and I shared this information and my opinion on it. Like, how could she go to Finland with her child who's like struggling in school, and we were gossiping, and I did it, but and I was being judgy, right? But is trying to think, like we said, well, where's she coming from? Where's this mom going? Like, why does she feel the need to? And but I did it. Like, I was so and my friend who I engaged this conversation, she's like, this is nuts. Like, why would she do that? It's so harmful to her child, and she's being selfish. But we did,
Right. So now, let's say you were armed with this class information right now, like this. What could you do in that moment that you're feeling the heat? You're thinking it's irresponsible.
I know, as soon as I said it.
Right.
Like,
And so what do you say that just tries to instead of letting the fly, loose and just flying around, that it's kind of like grasping, like you're taking hold of that, like that desire to just say those things. Because you can still think those things.
right.
So what would you do?
I'm really concerned about my.
Yes.
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
concerned
come
about
from
what's going
compassion,
on.
like,
Right?
yeah. Like, I'm really worried about.
Right.
What is she?
Child.
Yeah.
When I say
Or maybe she has some reason
Unbeknownst to
help
us.
the child, even though we think that it's gonna be a disadvantage, maybe she knows something about the educational system or whatever, that it's altruistic and not selfish.
Right, we don't know. I mean,
Right.
I just couldn't figure out how, like, going to a country where they don't speak English would be a good thing for a child who can't, I guess, speak.
Now we all
Get
know that bit
Yeah.
of gossip.
I don't know, it's just.
Right.
It just
Right. I'm
seems-
going to change up the example in a second.
It's
Yes.
a slippery slope because I
It is
think
hard.
sometimes
Gossip
that
is
these
super
people
slippery.
We're talking about people that they care about, and
Right.
they're wondering, they're trying to share news that they haven't seen the people in a while, and how's it gonna affect the kids, and are they trying to be there to be helpful for the kids, or are they trying to think of ways like she should be doing this, but they really can't. They can't tell this person what to do.
No.
They've got ideas of what she should be doing if she's in this kind of situation. They're
Okay.
discussing it, because they're discussing it because they're concerned.
Right.
Right.
But they've got no answers.
Right.
So is it gossip, or is it venting, or is it
So
trying to sort things out?
right. So the Chafetz Chaim writes there's a huge amount of halacha. There's a huge amount of Torah law around Lashon Hara. It is fascinating. I have spent, it's probably time for a review, but it is fascinating. I've spent years of my life, a lesson a day. It's broken up by a lesson a day. Some of them almost feel repetitive, but they're like slightly nuanced. If you understand the laws around Lashon Hara, it is totally mind-boggling. But what I will tell you is that it's humbling to see that the amounts of ways that we try to, tell ourselves like,
Justify.
yeah,
Sure.
that we try to justify the things that we're saying or the things that we're doing or the things that we're saying too, or the things that it's usually still Lashon Hara. There are certain times, even within, for example, I've had to call a rabbi and ask that within the framework of a shidduch, suggesting to a certain person that I want to get engaged. I've been called to ask about a certain person, and I know certain information, and I'm like, I have to share this information. Like, of course they have to know it. But guess whose narrative that is? That's only my narrative. And so I've had to ask a rabbi, like, this is the case, this is about so and so, you don't know who this person is. This is what I know. Is this something that I can share? And only somebody with a complete, like, a no bias, right? Like, just can then jump in and say, this is absolutely something that you have to share, or no, this has nothing to do. That you don't have to say this at all. This is not.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
and even venting is for sure. It depends. If it is to a special therapist that you need somebody else in this world to hold your pain or to hold your feelings, and you really need somebody else to understand. That's one person, okay? You can't then go and be like, oh, but I'm venting. And then you vent to that one and that one and that one and that one and that one, but it's still venting. And now I feel so much better. Okay, great. Like, so now you felt better and this person is just washed into bananas on the floor.
It totally connects to the first half of class, which is
Yeah.
maybe intentional.
I always try. I try. I
It
try.
connects to what you were saying about seeing the positive in someone who's not
Exactly.
exactly like us. And Rabbi went into the cave for 12 years because he was looking around and judging
Yeah.
people. And I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting Lauren's judging the person who.
I was.
Well, we all are. I mean, I've been in those shoes 1,000 times.
All the time.
Yeah.
And one thing that struck me in the first half of your lesson was, personally, I find that only in my 50s have I learned. I thought of this when you talked about teaching the teens, that when you really are focused on your own growth and goodness and connection to Torah, you do not have mental capacity to be looking around you as much as you used to, at least for me. Like in my 30s, I mean, I knew so much more about other people and what they had and what they were doing. And I just have either no interest or no time left to do that because I am more focused on being a better person myself.
Right. So I think that
What's that?
part of it is age and maturity.
Yeah.
Part of it is age and maturity. There's definitely something. I heard it actually starting like from the 40s on. Maybe someone was just giving me that compliment. But like I think maybe there's a certain like confidence. The beginning years it is a normal human
Yeah.
heart instinct. Thank you. To just kind of like you're
Yeah.
constantly just like
Yeah.
that's just
Footing.
you. So it has to be worked on even more, which is why like they're just having these discussions tonight. But part of it is age, and part of it is also exactly what he's saying, that when you can fill up, it's like your bandwidth is only so much. So when you're able to pour in with the Torah, the mitzvot, or the kindness, those are the three categories that he says. So suddenly something else changes. And what it actually says, the Gemara actually says that when you feel the Yetzer Hara coming, what do? It says you should drag him to the Beit Midrash. What in the world is this talking about? Like, what does that mean? Drag him. Like, you're imagining like dragging this thing. But if you imagine it, like you have this like pet, like this pesky thing, and you got to somehow stop what you're doing and pull him into a place of Torah learning, something is supposed to shift. Something is supposed to happen. So what he's essentially saying is like, you got to change your, what's going to be like the word, this like the secular psychology word, your vibration. Your vibration needs to be changed, right? You're on a certain vibration. You're like, and it's that negative vibration. It's that place of like, it's bringing you down. It's doing the wrong thing. So what do? Vidiglu alai. You got to pull him. to the Beit Midrash, when that change happens, you have now changed your vibration. Okay. So I think it's not so practical for every single one of us to just like go and run into a Beit Midrash. But there are things that we can do, and we'll end with this idea. There are things that we can do to actually shift our vibration, specifically in these three categories: Torah learning, mitzvot, or chesed. Now, of course, they're all connected, but if you think about it, they're all different. Now, you kind of chuckled, Gail, when I said to you, you can go and take out a book of Psalms and read it. But I wasn't really joking. I wasn't really joking, meaning Randy's like, that's what I do.
Right.
But really, like if you start to hear negativity, or if you start to feel like anger, right? Like kas is the Yetzer Hara. The anger that's boiling inside of you is the Yetzer Hara. So what do we often do? We try to say, I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to go listen to a meditation. I'm going to go do a quick yoga. I'm going to make a phone call to that person who makes me happy. Like we're going to try to switch our vibration. What Rabbi Dessler from a Musar perspective is suggesting is do something spiritual. Put it into something spiritual. When you want to get on the phone, so go call someone who needs a listening ear. Go be the kind person. Go give the person a compliment. Pull out a book of Psalms. Just read the English for like 30 seconds. Pick the quickest one in the book, right? Like you can just, there you go. She knows 117 is the quickest one in the book. 117, the quickest one in the book. You say the verse of Psalms, you connect to it, and you've now shifted your vibration, okay? Or go do a kind act for someone, right?
Sometimes we need to know that we need 12 more years in the cave. And sometimes we know we can come out at least for a viewing. And
I love that.
Am I ready for this?
I love that. Yeah.
The visual. of
Yes.
maybe we could realize that.
Hold on. I think you're saying good. Hold on. Give me a second. Hold on. Gail has something powerful to
Well, I
say.
just keep having the vision that if only I could remember this class and think if I started doing Lashon Hara, I'm basically setting the other person on fire. You know, like if we could have that kind of
Yeah.
visual.
You just need to set the fire, but like for the hot air balloons, that person can soar a little higher. You just have to set the fire a little bit differently. Yeah, exactly.
One of my, sorry,
Please. So
One
one
of-
could go either way, I'm sorry.
That's the thing of fire. It can either build or destroy.
one of my initial responses to how do you deal with it in this situation is I think about other situations where somebody is making you upset, somebody is making you angry. And instead of doing what you instinctually would do is defend yourself or attack, you do literally the opposite.
it changes.
You know,
the
you
dance.
just kind of like take a second and you're kind and you're gentle and you steer the conversation in a completely different direction. So instead of saying, I can't believe she's doing this has got to be awful for her child, say, you know what? I wonder if there's like a bigger purpose here that she, right, exactly. And give her the benefit of the doubt as opposed to judging her.
Beautiful.
I like that.
I love that.
The way that Gail was saying that now when it's happening in the kitchen and she
Yeah.
could imagine that she's setting the person on
Yeah.
fire. I'm thinking what Nancy said, that we're like coming out of the cave for 12 years and God,
Am I ready?
going, nope, you're not ready. I'm
You're
ready for
back to bed.
I want to go back in the cave.
That was great.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
It's
Yeah,
like your
that's-
time out.
That's a long time.
When my
That's
son
a long
was
time.
Probably, I would guess around third, fourth grade, he was having issues. Though. And there were times that he would walk in the door and I would go, Jeremy, and he, I swear to you, he would say, blah, 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 like I'm not listening to this.
Right, right.
And he'd go, I'm gonna go clean my room. And he would like head downstairs and I'm like,
Right.
I'm not done
Blah,
with
blah,
you
blah.
yet.
Yeah. Anyways, I just want to point out just for the last thing I'll just say, and that is that I'm just bringing in the idea of gossip because it seems to be always what my go-to example for the Yetzer Hara, but realize that there's so many things that fall into the category of the evil inclination, right? There are so many things, whether it be the lying or the cheating, or not even in the realm of speech, or things that we look at, or things that we acts that we do that shouldn't be done, or something that we eat. You know, we have to be just as careful with what we put into our mouth as what comes out of our mouth. There's also certain things that we're not supposed to eat. There's so many levels of where this comes in, and each on their own trajectory, you know? But just to think about, it's not, I don't want to just think we're only focusing just on gossip. So especially as we're climbing this mountain of the Torah, this is just such an important thing to think about. And I just want to end this, I want to end with the following paragraph. And he says that it was taught by the prophet Elijah that said a person should always make himself like an ox that plows and like a donkey that carries a burden, for the words of the Torah. Constant plodding, persevering, is what attachment to Torah means. This is what really ties the whole thing together with the concept of dveikut, meaning it's the toiling. It's that idea, that analogy of the donkey and the ox that really, really means that we are attaching ourselves. And that's the strategy that allows us to be able to capture that fly. One all-embracing strategy, and he specifically says that it should be for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but we're applying it for all the time. He says, one that will give some reason to hope that one's resolution will be kept is the strategy of attaching oneself to Torah and to good deeds. And so that really is the idea. That really completed like a little segment on the idea of the Torah, one small, tiny little segment of the idea of Torah and dveikut. Exactly. Yeah.
What's the word? Dveikut.
Dveikut. Dveikut. D-E-V-E. Devek is blue. Dveikut.
One word. It's one word.
Dveikut. Dveikus. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, now. it makes sense.
Yes. Okay. Any comments or questions from Zoomers? Last class next week. It will be on Shavuos. It will be on Shavuos. Last week is our next class for this session in the JCC. Then we will be starting a new series of Sip of Spirituality for the summer, which will be a series in people's homes to be yet determined and announced. Rachel will be helping organize that, and we will announce that. But yes, next week will be the completion, not really the completion, just the end of this season, and we'll focus on Shavuos specifically because we've been very much climbing a ladder. So next week we'll culminate with that.
And then over the summer, we'll meet, not weekly, it'll be less frequent.
Like every other week or something.
Exactly, it's less frequent.
Right.
Exactly.
Probably every other week.